Is it possible to tell a healthy dominant apart from a sneaky narcissist, sociopath, or abuser before you get hooked? What are the differences between a healthy display of authority and controlling toxic traits? Stay tuned because today I'm illuminating the steps you can take to thoroughly vet a potential dominant. First point, and it may sound trite, but I don't really care because it is so true. Knowledge is power. And when you are vetting a potential dominant, knowledge is your power because your knowledge going into this of not only what you need, what you like, what your limits are, what you're looking for, but your knowledge of what it means to be a healthy dominant and an abuser will serve you so well. And that's why I've done those videos, green flags of healthy dominance and red flags of fake dominance, to give you a checklist to go, oh yeah, okay, I'm trying to get to know this guy, this gal, and these are, okay, they're checking off all these green flags, or ooh, they're checking off all these red flags. So you have two amazing checklists for you there. And that's why you're going into this with knowledge. It is your power. So you're going to vet a potential dominant with one, knowledge of yourself. Know your desires, know your soft limits, know your hard limits, know your incentives, and know your safe word, your slow word, and your stop sign. Also know what you're looking for in a dominant. Are you a brat looking for a brat tamer? Are you a kitten looking for an owner? Are you a little looking for a caregiver? Are you a masochistic slave looking for intense 24/7 ownership? And know what level of investment you're seeking. So are you looking for a once weekly scene with a professional? Or are you looking for a 24/7 dynamic with a romantic partner? Or something in between? And also know the traits of healthy dominance, like I already said. So go watch my video, Green Flags of Healthy Dominance and Red Flags of Fake Dominance, to give you those checklists. Think about the difference in perspective and confidence you will have going into a chat, a first meeting, anything with this potential dominant where you don't know terms. You don't even know what you're comfortable with, what you're curious about. You don't know what a stop sign is. You don't know what a safe word is or a slow word is. You don't know that you're entitled to have them. If you go into this with ignorance, submissives, you are painting a massive target on your back. Okay? You're painting a target. For the good ones, they're going to be like, oh gosh, I need to protect this little creature. For the bad ones, they're going to be like, oh, that's an easy kill. So that's why knowledge is power. Knowledge will give you confidence going into these initial conversations with your potential dominant. Next, submissives, you are going to ask the right questions because, yes, there is such a thing as the wrong question. You can ask a question in the wrong way. And you can present a potential abuser with data to use against you, to manipulate you where you won't even think it's a manipulation. You're just like, how do they know me so well? Okay? They don't. They actually are using the data that you're giving them, and I'll show you how they do it. So asking the right questions has 3 points to it. The first one being you are going to ask them open-ended questions. You are also going to avoid hinting or leading. And you are also going to get them to tell you their answers first. Let's break this down. The first one, we're asking open-ended questions, okay? So the right way to go about this, the right way to ask an open-ended question to a potential dominant would be, what are some of your favorite activities? Okay, that's a lovely open-ended question. You're not giving them any data that they can use to manipulate you. You are giving them nothing but openness, and you're going, hey, what is your response? Okay. A close-ended question, what you do not want to do, you do not want to ask a question like, do you like pet play? Especially if you're enthusiastic about it and you have your kitten ears on. Do you like pet play? That's not what you do, because then they're like, they clearly like pet play. They might personally not like pet play, but they want to fuck you and leave you. So they're going to be like, yeah, I love pet play, my little kitten. Okay? And you just got manipulated. So ask open-ended questions. The next point to this is avoid hinting or leading. So a great example of this, if you are a pet, you're going to say, how do you feel about pet play? Again, this is presented perfectly neutral. How do you feel about this? Okay. What you do not want to say, submissives, is something like, I consider myself a kitten. Are you into pet play? Again, you're thinking that you're being open and honest and vulnerable, but if this person hasn't proven that you should be open, honest, and vulnerable with them, then what you're doing is you're giving this potential abuser data to use against you. Be careful of that. So the third technique in asking the right questions is getting them to tell you their answers first. So you want to ask things like, how would you define your style of dominance and ideal submissive? Versus, I'm a masochistic kitten looking for an owner who loves impact play. What's your type? Again, this is all about keeping your information, submissives, relatively tight to the chest at first. Because like I said, knowledge is power. The more knowledge about yourself that you give to this potential dominant is power to them. And it might be okay if they're good and respectable and really genuinely care about you and want to invest in you. But if not, you're giving someone all of your power when they haven't earned it. So that's what's at stake when you ask the right questions versus when you ask the wrong questions. And another facet to this is pay attention to their perspectives. Yes, you absolutely want to ask about their experiences and their skills and things like that. All very good. The hard skills, the hard pieces of information, absolutely. But you are also, and more importantly, looking out for their perspectives. And why I say this, it's much more difficult to disguise or lie about your perspective, your paradigm, your belief system in a conversation, because it just bleeds out. Your paradigms just bleed out in how you talk to people, how you engage, the words that you use, the words that you don't use, etc. Your tone, your level of aggression with people, your level of curiosity, openness, all of that. It comes out in conversation. It's submissives. You can pay attention for this. You can pay attention to their perspective. So when you're dialoguing, when you are asking them some of these questions, pay attention to perspectives such as, how do they feel about the role of submission? How do they feel about the role of dominance? How do they feel about a submissive's worth? How do they view leadership and responsibility? How do they view boundaries and consent? So you can ask them, have you ever violated a submissive's consent before? And they'd be like, no, of course not, baby. I got you. But that could be a total fucking lie. But if in the conversation, you're asking these questions and they're like, yeah, I know. I just feel like, consent is like a case-by-case thing because, it's all risky. And so if they start, saying things like that kind of backhandedly minimize how they view consent, pay attention. That's a perspective that's coming out in their communication. Next, submissives, you are going to state your boundaries without apology. Be honest about your mental, emotional, sexual, and relational limits. Be honest. If you are honest with your limits, you have a higher likelihood of attracting an honest dominant to you. But if you're so desperate for attention, if you're so desperate for a scene, if you're so desperate for subspace, that you are willing to be dishonest or conceal your true thoughts, feelings, and boundaries just to get a dominant, you're setting yourself up for abuse, child. And also, it's really ineffective. You are probably going to waste a lot of time that you don't need to. And I took this strategy when I was dating before I met my partner. My philosophy was, I have no interest in a random hookup. I have no interest in some horny little beta dick trying to come after me. I'm looking for a connection. I'm looking for investment. And if I feel you're worthy, I might invite you into the treasure trove, but not at a first fucking date or meeting. So I made that very, very clear. And a lot of you ladies are not willing to do that. Do it. It'll save you so much fucking time. So I did that. And every guy that, hey baby, you want to go out? My response was something like, sure. But just so you know, I'm not fucking you. I have no interest in fucking you. I don't want to fuck you. And if you're going on this date with me thinking that you're going to coerce a different answer out of me, just know that now. It's not going to happen. And in some cases, I never heard from the guy again. Saved myself some time. In a lot of cases, the guys were very like, absolutely. Thank you for being so clear. And when I did go out with them, it wasn't this awkward, what's going to happen kind of thing. It was, hey, they know why I'm here. I know why they're here. And when I set that very clear boundary, it weeded out the bad ones and it drew the authentic ones to me, the ones that were actually worthy of my time, even just on one date. Same thing with you, submissives. When you are upfront and honest with your boundaries, you're going to attract the right ones to you, and you're going to naturally weed out the ones that are looking at you for reasons you don't want them to look at you. Because that's the thing, a healthy dominant will love those boundaries, will honor those boundaries, will respect those boundaries, will feel relief that, okay, now I kind of know where the fence line is. It's the pseudo-dom, it's the manipulator, it's the abuser that will try to make you second guess or circumvent your boundaries through love bombing, through guilt, etc. So that's what you'll find when you do state your boundaries without apology, is the pseudo-doms will kind of like, whatever, dismiss it, ghost you, ignore you, try to circumvent. The good, healthy perspective dominants are going to thank you for sharing that with me. I will absolutely respect that. Demand trust. The process of trust building should go at the pace you need it to go, submissives. Submissives, there is no set time for you to be ready to submit, ready to play. There's no set time. And don't you dare let some toxic pseudo-dom try to push that narrative and project that narrative on you. It is a lie. Trust is the foundation of intimacy. And when we have a scene, a BDSM scene, it's incredibly intimate. But there's a flow to that intimacy. Safety, trust, vulnerability, then intimacy. And that safety and that trust, it takes time to build. So submissives, especially if you have had trauma or abuse in the past, do not feel guilty. Do not feel guilty in any way for taking your time, for asking questions, for going slow. You are not obligated to give anything to anyone at any point you don't feel 100% comfortable and enthusiastic in doing so. Are they happy to just go at your pace and get to know you and make sure that there's safety and trust? Or are they making you feel guilty about it and bad about it and they're getting kind of fussy about it? And finally, submissives, watch their responses. Spend enough time communicating and getting to know one another that you can see how the potential dominant responds when they're mad, disappointed, overwhelmed, hungry, etc. Essentially, you're wanting to see them at their potential worst. Because if you only see them at their best in the honeymoon phase, when all the hormones and chemicals and beautiful things are going off in your brain, when it's new and fresh and exciting, and you haven't had a fight, it's not really an authentic basis to make a judgment on. What you're looking for is, how do they behave toward me and toward other people when things don't go their way? When they're tired, when they're hungry, when they're stressed, when they're overwhelmed. What happens? Are they the same person? Or do they become a completely different person? Do they become someone that scares you, that you don't really like? Or is it something that you go, yeah, they're a little heightened right now, but that's still them. That's still their character, and I still feel safe, even when I do see them in these weird moments, in these awkward moments, in these stressful moments. It's a great way for you to evaluate their level of emotional consistency, emotional stability, and self-control. So if you found this content helpful, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure those notifications are turned on, and comment below with any questions you would like me to answer in an upcoming video.